Before we begin this week, I'd like to address something that's been bugging me for a bit now, namely a YouTube channel called CinemaSins, which I believe might be the pinnacle of anti-intellectual, film-hating, fake film criticism that makes discussing film on the internet so difficult these days. These are 2 to 4 minute videos where a guy just lists things he calls cinema sins, a completely nebulous concept. You think it would just be an obnoxious listing of plot holes and boom mic incidences, but most of them are scenes that only seem odd out of context, artistic liberties taken because this is the fucking Avengers and not 12 Angry Men, rehashing TV tropes because TV tropes is gospel, I guess, or just really bad riffing. I mean, here's some of the idiocy this guy's brought up and called a cinema sin. Something in a science fiction film not existing in real life. Metaphors. An action film not having its best action scene at the beginning. Visual consistency. Character arcs that have characters reach a low point. Claiming something is visually similar to something from another property when it clearly isn't and you need to get your fucking eyes checked. A dialogueless scene conveying several things at once just through acting. He tries to play the "this film is racist" card whenever any character of any ethnicity is killed. It's especially funny in his video for Prometheus, as if he's surprised that a movie in which all but 2 of the characters die would kill off these guys. Oh, and they're like among the final 5, so you can't even do the black person dies first thing. Oh, and you'll play the those poor ethnicities card, but still make plenty of gay and stripper jokes. Good for you. You do realize that you are literally calling homosexuality a sin. Like, literally. Sin being the title of the show and all? Yeah. Look, I get that this all might be a joke. I really do. But the problem with that is that this coincides so much with the nitpicking douchebag internet community that takes the enjoyment out of everything. And at no point is there anything resembling a wink of the camera to indicate to the peons who want to feel superior over movies for whatever reason that a list cannot possibly get to the soul of a film, and that this is all at least a semi-parody of forum-dwelling self-importance. But if the entire concept of CinemaSins is truly a genuine attempt at film criticism and not failed self-parody, then this guy simply does not understand how movies work, either as an art form or as an entertainment. And with well over 70,000 subscribers in just a month, he is seriously hurting movie viewership by promoting this bullshit way of thinking. I mean, look at one of his comment sections. There are people here who are generally being convinced that these films must be shit because, hey, he listed 50-odd sins for this movie. His words have already been taken as gospel, and anyone who tries to actually address the issues brought up in his videos, try to defend or even just open up a dialogue about a film, they are immediately downvoted, marked as spam, and get replies of, "Oh, this is just a joke, don't take this too seriously." Fuck this hypocritical bullshit and this anti-thinking garbage. CinemaSins isn't even that funny. His format is simple and lazy. At least How It Should Have Ended takes movie logic and turns it into animated skits. At least Red Letter Media has a sense of self-awareness. I don't know what I intend to accomplish with this video beyond just fuming, because I hate this shit. I hate the idea that real-world logic needs to apply to an art form. I hate the idea that you could sum up a film as a list of points and don't have to explain yourself. I hate the community it's built and how they shut down actual discussions. I hate that it's not even funny. I fucking hate CinemaSins, and I want everyone to know. Now let's talk about movies like smart people do. If this week of film had a theme, it would be movies whose trailers have been playing in front of every film ever for the past 8 months. I have the trailers for Zero Dark 30 and Gangster Squad completely memorized, to the point where they started to blend together in my dreams into a time travel epic that ends with Mickey Cohen and Osama bin Laden in a boxing match in CIA headquarters. We all know a film about the hunt for and killing of Osama bin Laden would happen eventually, though I believe many were surprised at just how quickly it came about. Director Kathryn Bigelow, coming off her success with the Iraq war drama The Hurt Locker, was already in pre-production for a film about the December 1st Battle of Tora Bora when the news of Osama bin Laden's death hit, which resulted in the Tora Bora film getting scrapped, but gave Bigelow the head start for this production. Still, being so close to the actual events has caused the film to be seen in a different light than if it was released even a year later, from certain controversies gaining more ground than they would have, and perhaps the film being seen more favorably, especially from the America fuck yeah crowd that cheered and set off fireworks when the news originally hit the States. Trying to add a layer of separation from real-life events, my opinion of Zero Dark 30 is that it's good, and pretty damn good in fact, but not this great work that some people are making it out to be, and I think the central issue, which isn't that big, mind, but big enough for me, is that the film seems to bob around the focus a bit too much, and it can be hard to tell what the film is really trying to be about, at least until the very final scene that gives a really subtle thesis statement to the entire film and is actually pretty damn awesome. Sometimes the film is focused long and hard on the logistics of the investigation into the locations of bin Laden, giving us highly detailed recreations of interrogations, spy stuff, and all the paperwork in between, and sometimes the focus suddenly becomes that of a character study of Maya, the CIA agent played by Jessica Chastain, studying her relationships or lack thereof with her coworkers and her work. Again, this is not a huge issue, but it did make the film feel more adrift than I think it should have. Still, whatever we're focusing on at any given moment is so detailed, so tightly presented that you really get invested until the next bob in focus makes you lose your grip for a few seconds. A lot of praise has been given to Jessica Chastain, and for good reason. Her character is very disarming. No sense of professional conduct around her peers, using some pretty dirty language with a kind of weird, squeaky voice that would almost be adorable if the film wasn't 100% serious all the time. Oh, is it serious? There is never a relaxed moment, even when the characters are just looking at computer monitors, trying to pick up leads. There's no real glorifications to be had, not even in the final raid in the compound holding bin Laden. This ties into the controversy surrounding scenes of torture, but I think it's fairly clear that the film is only interested in documenting that it happened, not condemning or condoning it. It's not black and white, it's not even shades of gray, it's a moral void, a just the facts ma'am zone of a film. Even with bin Laden dead, there's no real moment of release, no America fuck yeah moment where people are high-fiving, no patting President Obama on the back. Obama's not even in the movie. The only other issue is that the supporting cast isn't always that strong, but then they don't exactly have a huge presence anyway. Jason Clarke is probably the nearest to a second lead, playing the CIA operative in charge of most of the torture seen in the film, but while Clarke does a great job, he's only in the film as long as the narrative needs him, almost completely vanishing from it in the final act. Joel Edgerton, Jennifer Eiley, Edgar Ramirez, Harold Perrineau, and that guy from Torchwood all just kind of fill space. Oh, and James Gandolfini is in this. I'm not sure why the universe has suddenly decided to make Gandolfini the bane of my existence lately, but yeah, he's not that great in this movie either. To get further into this film would be spoilers, and yes, spoilers for a film where you already know if the good guys are going to win or not. They exist. Honestly, my issues with the film are minimal and partially might just be me. I still highly recommend Zero Dark 30 as both a good film and as a piece of our times. It's rare a film addresses the now like this. Best to catch it while you can. And now for a film that is the complete opposite of Zero Dark 30, despite it also being a semi-historical piece about an enforcement group using morally suspect means to track and take down a famous criminal with a controversy surrounding real-life events. Only Gangster Squad is cartoony, takes huge liberties with history, and is about as unimportant and forgettable as it gets. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's a bad movie, just a movie that isn't as nearly as cool as it thinks it is and ends up being unsatisfying. The film's biggest bright spot is Sean Penn as crime boss Mickey Cohen, who is currently underway getting operations running along the West Coast. Penn seems to be the one actor who really realizes how silly the entire affair is, realizes that this is the kind of movie that has a shoeshine boy for a police informant, and turns the ham up to 11. He pretty much owns every scene he's in. Josh Brolin's hard-nosed, honest cop character doesn't really offer much as a lead, though he does make a decent double act against Ryan Gosling's playboy, alcoholic, womanizing type cop character, who's a bit more in line with the film's silly tone, but I don't think it goes far enough. There's a fake cleaning up his act arc that consists almost entirely of, oh, I guess Gosling's drinking soda instead of booze now. Actually, the entire film feels a bit gutted. Part of that might deal with editing out a scene involving a shootout in a movie theater due to association with the Aurora Theater shooting, but even if I mentally edit that stuff back in, it still feels like there's something missing here. Most of the characters seem to be missing their big money shot moments. For example, Robert Patrick plays this detective that dresses like a cowboy, has a kick-ass mustache, and his entire character is really amazing shot, and you're just waiting for that magic moment where he pulls off some amazing shot, and it never happens. He actually contributes almost nothing to the actual story. Same story with Anthony Mackie and Michael Pena, only they get characterized by their race. They too don't get their moments. They're just extra gun hands for the Brolin and Gosling show. There's a scene in the trailer where Mackie falls through a skylight with a guy, and it's not in the movie. I don't know why, maybe it was connected to the theater shooting scene somehow, but it's exactly the kind of moment that seemed to have been surgically removed throughout the entire film. All the cool stuff is missing in a film that's trying to be nothing but cool stuff. And frankly, this film just has no style. I'm glad that there's such a minimal use of handheld, but action scenes are still occasionally lost in the editing, and there's no sense of rhythm, no strong action beats. I mean, the film opens with a slow-motion scene of Mickey Cohen boxing, and the film ends with Mickey Cohen boxing one of the heroes, but not in slow motion, and for me that seemed like an obvious bit of action symmetry. I don't want to play backseat action director, but you got no style, man, no style at all. Also, the digital presentation here made some of these scenes really dull and flat. This is not LA Confidential, this is not The Untouchables, this is not even LA Noire. This is Dick Tracy without the makeup and the primary colors, and I didn't even like Dick Tracy. It's altogether a pretty tepid affair, a film that neither takes itself seriously enough nor embraces the silly stuff enough. It's boring and forgettable, actually, which frankly I find to be a worse fate for a film than bad. You won't be offended by this film, but you won't get anything from it either. Dreading this day. The day when the rotted, zombified corpse of the Scary Movie / Wayans Brothers / Friedberg and Seltzer / We Used to Like You, David Zucker horrible spoof film machine finally stepped on my front door. Thankfully, I really think this type of film is on its last legs, and will have completely melted away like the Wicked Witch from The Wizard of Oz in just a few years. But this year, we've got not one, but 2 Paranormal Activity spoof films to deal with. Haunted House has no surprises for you. At all. It is Paranormal Activity remade with fart jokes, sex jokes, weed jokes, black people jokes, and gay jokes. It didn't really have to be. I mean, there's an actual nugget of an idea there. Namely, how would normal upper middle class people actually handle a ghostly presence once they've come to grips with it? They might even find it cool. The best scene of the entire film, the one time the whole film showed any sign of intelligence and wit, the one time it actually got a chuckle out of me, was when the main couple, played by Marlon Wayans and Essence Atkins, get so fed up with the hauntings that they basically give the spirit the silent treatment, actively ignoring it so that maybe it'll just fuck off. But that's one semi-decent scene out of an 86-minute movie. Really, was it that short? Felt like it was going on forever and ever and ever. About the only other nice thing I can say here is that Marlon Wayans is not afraid to make himself look like an idiot on camera. He just throws himself in every gag. I just wish that dedication to his craft was used for something that was actually funny. The rest of the cast just got on my nerves, especially Nick Swardson as Chip the gay psychic. The entire gag being that gay people always sexually molest people, always, or something. I really would pay decent money to punch Swardson in the face. Cedric the Entertainer, David Kochny, they suck. Everyone sucks. This movie sucks. I don't want to talk about this movie anymore. Let's move on to the 82 Rewind. Wow. Okay, this movie exists. I'm not entirely sure what to make of it, honestly. What we have here is essentially an attempt to make a goofy Rodgers and Hammerstein type musical on the subject of prostitution, casting largely unthreatening stars Dolly Parton and Burt Reynolds, and having them cursing and getting it on, and no, you don't get to see Dolly Parton's nipples. You should already know that if you watch The Venture Brothers. Frankly, it's a push-me-pull-you kind of film, a freak of nature that'll draw your eye to be sure, but is ultimately self-defeating. It's a colorful romp where people dress up in frilly outfits and do the two-step, and Gomer Pyle is the narrator. But then you get to the topless girls and football players smoking weed and Gomer Pyle saying bullshit. It's a satire of politics and the rise of sensationalist media, with discussions of morality, religion, sexual freedom, and oh god, is Burt Reynolds singing? And are the whores all dressed up like Disney princesses? Yeah, you dance, Dom DeLuise. You dance and mug at the camera, Dom DeLuise. For those not in the know, this musical, originally a Broadway show, is about the real-life Chicken Ranch, a brothel that ran in Texas for several decades that, while technically illegal, was tolerated because it looked down on inappropriate behavior and had no ties to crime. It was a completely clean operation. It was eventually shut down due to an investigation by reporter Marvin Zindler, spoofed here by Dom DeLuise as the character Melvin P. Thorpe. Dolly Parton plays the owner of the Chicken Ranch, Miss Mona. Burt Reynolds plays the local sheriff and Mona's secret lover, Ed Dodd. The first half hour of the film is setting up the location and Parton and Reynolds' relationship, and oh god, does it drag. Epic long scenes of each other trying to get each other into sexy underwear and not actually having sex. You can make a drinking game out of how many times Reynolds, not his character but the actor himself, gets distracted by Parton's rack. The film does pick up once Dom DeLuise enters the plot. At least things are happening and Burt Reynolds doesn't sing as much. There's a really well choreographed number with a bunch of horny football players, almost good enough to distract you from the fact that all the players are super tiny because they're actually professional ballet dancers in football jerseys. My favorite part of the whole film is when the late Charles Durning shows up as the governor of Texas and does a short but highly entertaining number about sidestepping journalist questions with non-answers, represented here by cartoon physics and dance. Durning must have been about 60 at the time of this film, but he is a surprisingly spry dancer. Also, he does this trick with his cowboy hat that I'm totally going to imitate for the rest of my life. So yeah, it has its moments for sure, but ultimately the whole is less than its parts. The lighter aspects of the film aren't as well executed as they could be, while the satire aspects don't really have any bite. This is the film equivalent of your dad giving you an old issue of Playboy magazine, with some decent political articles mixed in with bare-breasted women, but nothing actually all that dangerous, and you better stay away from Dad's Hustler magazines, you understand, boy? The best little whorehouse in Texas serves best as a curiosity, but sadly not much as anything else. Well, see you next week.